Oh my God, you're going with this.
Square-foot swimming pool. This casino was built on a 50-acre natural cove, and it has one of Laughlin's prettiest beaches, especially during the summer months.
Magazine's back still showing.
You gonna move down here, Brittany? You gonna move down here?
Maybe.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That's the problem. You probably make mad tips though being a cocktail waitress on a freaking thing because you would actually like.
There's a palm tree growing on top of that condo.
Yeah, I don't think.
Over on our right, towards the riverbank, you'll notice some large rocks. Ladies and gentlemen, in 1983, Circus came to Laughlin. They were the first large corporation to move into this area. They bought the Edgewater and a small casino called the Colorado Bell. It originally opened in 1980 right next to the Regency, about where the Edgewater Tower is located today. They bought all the property up south of the Edgewater except for one small piece of land. And a little lady by the name of old Mrs. Lafferty owned a little trailer just south of the Edgewater, where you can see those trees up there in the corner right on this end. They offered Mrs. Lafferty $250,000 for her trailer and her piece of land, but she refused. They offered her $500,000, and she refused. They offered her $1 million tax-free. That got her to raise an eyebrow, but they still couldn't talk her into selling. She told them she was happy right where she was, and she didn't have anywhere to go. So, they went ahead and tore the old Colorado Bell down and started construction right on around her. They gave her just enough room to drive her car down to get to her trailer. The opening between the Edgewater and the Colorado Bell was Mrs. Lafferty's easement, but they didn't let Mrs. Lafferty have quite that much room when she was using it. Finally, they went to Mrs. Lafferty and offered her $2.5 million tax-free and a suite in the Edgewater with full services, which included a wet bar and a limousine service for the rest of her life. But that wasn't all. They built her a dock down by the river so she could come down and go fishing. When they built that 26-story tower, they built Mrs. Lafferty a 10-room suite up at the very top of the tower. And if you look up at the top of that tower on this side, you can see the balcony they built for her so she could come outside and get some fresh air and watch the morning sunrise. They completed this tower in February of 1991, and there are some that believe that this is where the story should end. But unfortunately, however, 1 week before Mrs. Lafferty was to move into her new penthouse, she passed away. She was on her way back from a European tour when she had a stroke. But she had been around the world twice at the expense of Circus. They named a street after her in front of the Edgewater, and they called it Lafferty Lane. It goes from the front of the Edgewater over to the front of the Colorado Bell. Her suite went back to the Edgewater, and they use it today as conference rooms and apartments for VIPs. Mrs. Lafferty's inheritance money went to her children. She had 2 girls and a boy. But Mrs. Lafferty's story will live on, because every tour boat out here on the river tells this story every day of the lady that stuck it out to the very end, and now you know the rest of that story.
Are you sad? Why?
Because we're going home.
Were you excited though when